I'm inclined to call this a rally. Why not? Up nearly 50 points after what? Nearly an hour's worth of business when we were expecting a loss of 200? That is volatility. Gold still up though, $26 higher, $1,848 per ounce. Now, everybody remember please, we start at 9:15 Eastern on Varney and Company. If you weren't here for the first 45 minutes, you missed Gil Morales weighing in on whether President Obama should come out and say anything about the markets.
But, you know, he's had 2.5 years for that, so I think he's pretty impotent at this point when it comes to his comments. I think people don't pay any attention, and I think the market's just going to continue to do what it's doing, which is go down.
Not so fast there, Gil. We're now up 57 points, not down, up 55 points. Remember, everybody, we start at 9:15 Eastern every weekday morning, and next week we'll be on at 8 o'clock at night as well. Recession fears here in the US, economic crisis in Europe, but there is also chaos in the Middle East. Nearly every single country is having some kind of upheaval. Joining us now from Phoenix is Zuhdi Jasser. He's the president of the American Islamic Forum for Democracy. So welcome back to the program. It's always good to see you. I don't think I'm going too far in saying that throughout the Middle East, virtually every single country, there is absolute chaos. And I'm going to express the opinion that that's having something to do with the rise in the price of gold. Do you share that, sir?
Yeah, I think that ultimately there's, you know, the rise of the price of gold is related to fear. And we see in the Middle East a fear of the unknown. We see people rising up, Stuart, because of economic unrest especially, both political and economic. Egypt's uprising, over 90% of the youth that were in the streets between 15 and 30 were unemployed. Syria, same thing. It's economic and political. And as a result of that fear, we need a president, we need a West that's not going to look at the short-term fears, but say, you know what, look at it positively and say that we have emerging free markets. Once these tyrants and dictators that are abusing and killing their own people disappear, you'll have a wealth of free market availability that if we actually respond to, we can then become a part of. But they're not doing that. But we're leading from behind, we're sitting quiet, and ultimately using this to fuel the nanny state environment, which these people in the Middle East are actually trying to get rid of.
I'm looking at this strictly from a financial point of view. The effect on the price of gold, the effect on the economy, that kind of thing. So I'm looking at purely financially. And as I look at the scenes that we're looking at now, and I look across the whole Middle Eastern world, I don't see the chaos ending anytime soon, and I don't see much coming of the spring revolts in many Arab capitals. Do you?
No, not in the short term, because not only are they going to get rid of their dictators, but the economies have yet no infrastructure. So there's no investment that's going to happen, and our companies, our market is not going to see any a future to where we can see stability in that economy. But at the end of the day, just like in our own finances, if we're going to have economic stability, we have to have a vision economically that doesn't just look in the short term, but looks at the long term. So we can't allow continued fears to push us into more recession, but rather to say we have to invest in the future that's going to be emerging. Otherwise, you're right, we're going to continue to see our finances, our markets, the price of gold go up, things go down, that will no longer allow us to be the leader in the world, and we need to push our economic statementship so that we can continue to be the leaders of the free world.
Just so I can be real clear here, do you want a more robust approach from President Obama? And I mean robust diplomatically and maybe even militarily? Do you want that?
Absolutely. Again, we don't have to intervene militarily, but we can win this just as Reagan, simply by what he did with the air traffic controllers, it made an impact on foreign policy. So when you have a strong president that means what he says and says what he means, leads through moral clarity. It took us 5 months to say anything on Syria. That has to have an impact on our markets, has to have an impact on our finances. I mean, if Europe would stand up and do petro-sanctions on Syria, that would have a huge impact on the Syrian opposition feeling that we stand with them. But they're not doing that. We're being vacillating. We're sort of looked at as coddling dictators. So why not? Why don't they then go to Russia or China? And that will hurt our economies in the long run. If we stand morally with a moral leadership from Obama, I think ultimately that will help our finances in the long run and our financial systems.
Can I get something right here? Am I right in saying that you, sir, you served in the American Navy for 11 years?
Yes, sir.
Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
You born in America?
Yes, I served 11 years.
Born in America?
Absolutely. My parents are Yes, my parents came from Syria, escaped the persecution of that regime because they saw freedom. They saw an ability to make what they own and succeed in free markets that they didn't have there. And what we see the Syrian people doing today is why my family came here. They're able to do that since the 60s, and hopefully they can see that emerge in Syria.
Well, Dr. Zuhdi Jasser, I believe you will be our guest on Varney at Night next week, correct, sir?
Yes, sir. I look forward to being with you again, Stuart.
So do we. It's good to have you.
Always a pleasure to talk to you.
Zuhdi Jasser, everybody. He will join us next week. Varney at Night. We're on at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on the Fox Business Network, and Dr. Jasser will join us. Thank you, Doctor. Next, Colonel Oliver North on defense cuts. Just how many servicemen and women will be cut? Which weapon systems will we lose? Direct questions, direct answers. Next.